There is a truth that shadows us, a quiet understanding we spend our lives trying to outrun. It follows us into every silent room and echoes in the space between our ambitions and our actions. And the truth is this: no one is coming to save you. Not tomorrow, not next year, not when the timing finally feels perfect. The great turning point of your life will arrive only when you cease scattering your energy outward, waiting for a sign, and begin directing it inward. It begins when you choose to focus on yourself with the same fierce urgency you once reserved for waiting on someone else to believe in you. The Stoics knew this well. They understood that your freedom, your growth, and your strength are born in the very moment you take ownership of your own path. For the harshest reality is also the most liberating. The life you dream of is already in your hands, if only you dare to commit to yourself. And if this message resonates, if you feel a stirring to live with clarity and unshakable strength, then consider this a quiet vow, a promise to stay aligned with wisdom, to grow daily, and to walk the path of discipline, resilience, and inner power. Think about it. How many times have you deferred your future, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for support, for validation, for a voice outside yourself to say, "You've got this"? The truth is hard, but it is unavoidable. No one is coming to hand you the life you want. No one will grant you permission to live differently. If you do not decide to build yourself, you will not be built. And yet, we deceive ourselves. We whisper that tomorrow will be different, that the right opportunity will somehow fall into our laps without our having to move first. But as Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Time is not an endless expanse. Waiting is the quietest way we squander it. Every day spent postponing what matters is a day lost to eternity, and in the deepest part of yourself, you know this. The weight of wasted time does not arrive all at once. It creeps in. It is the restless feeling in the dead of night, the realization that another day has passed and nothing of meaning has moved forward. It is the way your dreams begin to feel distant, not because they are impossible, but because you have allowed them to fade beneath the noise of your own excuses. Epictetus once said, "First, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This is not a call for grand declarations, but for small, steady acts of self-discipline. The problem is not that we lack knowledge. It is that we so rarely act upon it with the urgency that life demands. We wait because we fear failure. But failure is not the enemy. It is merely the evidence of effort. It is the raw material of wisdom. As Carl Jung wrote, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown." You do not overcome failure by avoiding it. You overcome it by growing stronger through it. Failure is not a wall. It is a teacher. The real danger isn't falling short. It's never beginning at all. Every time you hold back out of fear, you build a habit of hesitation, and hesitation is the silent killer of potential. But an enemy just as dangerous as fear is distraction. You already know how easily hours can be lost to scrolling, comparing, consuming things that add nothing to your life. That time does not simply vanish. It is laid down, brick by brick, to build a life you did not choose. Seneca warned us, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Every distraction is a theft from your future, a piece of the life you could have built. It is not harmless. It is a slow surrender. Unless you reclaim your attention, the best parts of you will wither under the weight of meaningless noise. Imagine what would happen if you gave yourself back even half of that wasted energy. If you replaced comparison with action, and distraction with discipline, What kind of person would you become if every hour became an investment rather than a loss? This is the power of focus. It compounds. Just as money compounds into wealth, your attention compounds into strength, knowledge, and character. Aristotle observed, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Your habits are either compounding for you or against you. Every small choice adds up. This is not easy, of course. The world does not reward silence and focus. It demands your attention at every turn. Every notification, every ping, every whisper of another's opinion is an attempt to breach the walls of your mind. But your mind is sacred ground. You must learn to stand guard at its gates. Plato taught that the first and greatest victory is to conquer yourself. Guarding your focus, choosing where your energy flows, this is the highest form of self-mastery. If you cannot rule your own attention, someone else will. The more you protect your focus, the clearer your path becomes. You stop chasing approval. You stop wasting breath, explaining yourself to people who will never understand your vision. You stop diluting your goals to fit into the limited imagination of others. By choosing to build yourself, you free yourself from the endless cycle of living for them. Socrates believed that the unexamined life is not worth living. What he meant is simple. If you do not step back and claim your own path, you will unknowingly spend your life walking down someone else's. And yet, even with clarity, there will be days when you want to quit. Days when the work feels endless and the results seem invisible. These moments are not signs that you are on the wrong path. They are the moments that define it. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is moving forward while fear clings to you. It is rising when comfort whispers for you to stay down. Because comfort is a liar. It promises relief but robs you of progress. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you drift further from the life you claim to want. This is why persistence matters more than inspiration. Anyone can take the first step when excitement is fresh. Only a few can keep walking when the road is long and silent. As Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." Without persistence, your vision is fragile. With it, even storms cannot break you. You must remember that the invisible seasons, the times when growth is happening beneath the surface, are precisely where your character is forged. A seed grows its roots long before it breaks the soil. Your growth is no different, but this requires trust. Trust in your own process. Trust in the unseen. So many give up, not from a lack of ability, but from a lack of patience, abandoning their dreams in the quiet stretches when nothing seemed to be moving. Jung believed that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That becoming does not happen overnight. It unfolds gradually, through every disciplined choice, every act of courage, every small victory you win against yourself. Over time, something remarkable happens. As you consistently choose to build yourself, the world around you begins to shift. Your confidence solidifies. Your relationships improve because you no longer need them for validation. Your vision sharpens and your energy renews. The external world always follows internal discipline. It begins within. And one day, you will realize the true victory was never the final achievement. It wasn't the job, the money, or the recognition. The true prize was the person you became along the way. Someone who does not quit at the first sign of struggle. Someone who does not bend to every fleeting opinion. Someone who trusts their own strength completely. This is the essence of focusing on yourself until you win. The real victory is becoming unshakable. Becoming someone you, yourself, can finally rely on. So ask yourself again, how long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself? The perfect moment will never come. The only moment that matters is this one. Today is the day you begin. Brick by brick, choice by choice. Begin now, while you are uncertain. Begin while you are afraid. Begin while you are unready. Because fear will always be there, whispering its lies. But you are stronger than the whisper. And once you prove that to yourself, failure loses its fangs and becomes your fuel. The harsh reality is that life will test you again and again. But the gift hidden in those tests is the chance to become unbreakable. Failure is not the final chapter. It is the beginning of a better one written by a person who has scars, but also has wisdom. A person who knows the taste of falling, but also the discipline of rising. And with every rise, the next fall becomes less frightening. This is how resilience is forged. Not by imagining a life without obstacles, but by deciding that no obstacle will ever end your pursuit. In the same way that distraction quietly compounds into regret, focus compounds into confidence. Each day you dedicate to building yourself strengthens the next. Each small victory paves the way for a greater one. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the life you once only imagined begins to take shape. Not through luck, but through presence. The gift of focus is that it reveals what truly matters. You stop chasing the fleeting approval of others. You stop wasting your essence on arguments that add nothing to your soul. You stop explaining your vision to those who are committed to misunderstanding it. You begin to guard your time and your energy as if they are sacred, because they are. Life does not reward the one who pays attention to everything. It rewards the one who chooses, with deliberate care, where to direct their fire. Distraction will always exist. The noise will never fully cease, but you can rise above it. You can choose to give your energy to what builds you instead of what drains you. You can train your mind to ignore the meaningless and stay locked on the meaningful. The ancient philosophers knew this was the heart of freedom. Not to be free from challenge, but to be free from a wasted life. When you learn to guard your attention, you will find that the chaos of the world no longer has power over you. And that is the entire point. The danger was never falling short. To fall short is to learn, to be pushed forward. The real danger has always been distraction, for it convinces you to surrender your life, one moment at a time, without you ever realizing it. But once you see it for what it is, a thief of futures, and refuse to hand yours over, you begin to live differently. You begin to live deliberately, and the life that once felt out of reach begins to materialize, not because the world grew quieter, but because you finally decided to listen to yourself. What if, instead of giving your attention to the meaningless, you gave it back to yourself? The hours of your day are like drops of water. Poured into the sand, they vanish, leaving nothing behind. But poured consistently into the same vessel, they accumulate. They gain weight, they gain strength, and they begin to overflow into every corner of your existence. Imagine how much sharper, wiser, and stronger you would be if every hour became an investment in your future, instead of a donation to distraction. That is the power of focus. It compounds like interest. Quiet, almost invisible at first, but over time, it transforms into something extraordinary. The truth is, your focus has always been the most valuable currency you possess. More valuable than money, more valuable than status, because wherever your focus goes, your life follows. Pour it into shallow pursuits, and your life will become shallow. Pour it into growth, wisdom, and self-mastery, and your life will begin to reflect that unshakable strength. As Seneca warned, life is long, if you know how to use it. The proper use of life is the proper use of attention. Think of your focus as a lens. A blurred lens scatters light, diffusing energy until nothing is powerful enough to make an impact. But a focused lens concentrates that same light into a beam so sharp it can burn through steel. Your energy is no different. Scattered across noise, gossip, and hollow pursuits, it vanishes. But focused on your vision, it becomes unstoppable. Imagine what it would feel like to move through your days with a calm strength, making decisions with purpose rather than by reaction. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." If your attention is fixed on trivial things, your thoughts will be trivial. If your attention is dedicated to growth, your thoughts will build a foundation of wisdom. This is not abstract philosophy. It is the daily, practical reality of where you place your mind. Of course, it is not easy to guard your attention in a world engineered to steal it. Everything around you is designed to pull your focus outward, to keep you consuming instead of creating, comparing instead of building. That is why discipline in this realm is not an option. It is survival. When you protect your attention, you are not just avoiding distraction. You are reclaiming your life. Each moment you pull your focus back to yourself, you are declaring, "This life is mine, not the property of the noise around me." And slowly, choice by choice, you build a future that reflects that ownership. The compounding power of focus means that the smallest acts matter more than you can imagine. An hour of reading today doesn't just make you wiser for that hour. It stacks with tomorrow's hour and the next until you have built a mind that others cannot ignore. A single workout doesn't just make you healthier for a day. It compounds into strength and confidence that infuses every part of your life. Even the simple act of saying no to one distraction is an investment, a small brick added to the fortress of discipline that will protect your future. Philosophy teaches us that greatness does not arrive in a single leap. It is carved over years of steady, quiet investment. Just as a river shapes a canyon not by force but by persistence, your attention, consistently placed, reshapes your entire existence. And what is remarkable is how the results begin to spill into areas you never anticipated. Focus on your mind, and your relationships improve. Focus on your health, and your work improves. Focus on your discipline, and your finances improve. All areas of your life are connected through you. By strengthening one, you strengthen them all. Over time, you begin to see focus not as restriction, but as liberation. It is freedom from the chains of distraction, freedom from the exhausting cycle of reaction, freedom from the endless pull of comparison. The Stoics saw true freedom not as the absence of rules, but as the presence of self-mastery. As Epictetus taught, no man is free who is not master of himself. Guarding your focus is how you claim that freedom. The choice is always yours. You can give your hours to the noise and watch them disappear, or you can reclaim them and let them compound into something magnificent. Focus is the ultimate investment. It does not just change your day, it reshapes your destiny. It does not just create results, it forges character. And character is the only thing that truly endures. The test comes every single day. The world tries to steal your attention not in one grand heist, but in 1,000 tiny thefts. A notification buzzing on your phone, a headline screaming for your outrage, a comment designed to pull you into a meaningless battle. Each one is a thief knocking quietly at the door of your mind. The question is simple. Do you let them in, or do you stand guard? Focus is not a rare talent bestowed upon a chosen few. It is a choice you must make again and again, moment by moment, until it becomes the very backbone of your life. We underestimate how dangerous it is to give our attention away. We think, it's just a quick glance, just a few minutes. But each distraction leaves behind a residue, a subtle fog that lingers long after the screen goes dark. To be everywhere, as Seneca warned, is to be nowhere. The challenge is that distractions disguise themselves as urgent, but most are just noise. As Carl Jung observed, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. Many of our distractions are not external. They are excuses we build to avoid the hard, necessary work of growth. Guarding your mind means being honest about the inner escapes you create to avoid discomfort. But that discomfort is where growth lies. Growth requires facing precisely what you have been avoiding. Like a muscle, focus strengthens with use and weakens with neglect. Each time you resist the urge to be pulled away, you are building that muscle. You are becoming harder to shake. Your attention determines the direction of your life. Contained within narrow banks, a river becomes powerful enough to move mountains. Spread too wide, it becomes a swamp, stagnant and lifeless. Your focus works in precisely the same way. Perhaps you have felt it, that restlessness when you are not progressing, that quiet voice reminding you that you are drifting. This is not weakness. It is your deeper self begging for direction. We were not built to drift. We were built to build. When ignored, that restlessness hardens into regret. But when you listen to it, it becomes the spark you need to begin again. Progress, however modest, feeds the soul. It is the fuel for the fire within. That restlessness is not a curse. It is a guide. It is your inner compass, reminding you that your life holds more potential than the way you are currently living it. Treat it as such, and it will lead you to rise. And as you rise, your restlessness transforms into momentum. You begin to crave growth more than you crave comfort. You begin to trust yourself, because you have proven that when your deeper self calls, you answer. And that is the foundation upon which a deliberate life is built. One day, you will wake up and realize you are no longer the same person. The transformation was not loud. It was forged in silence, in the steady, compounding power of your focus. It was built not by luck, but by the quiet choice you made, day after day, to stand guard at the door of your mind. At first, these sacrifices will feel heavy. But in time, you will see they were never losses. They were exchanges. You traded what was shallow for what was lasting. Epictetus urged his students to endure this discomfort, for he knew that true freedom demanded it. The beauty of this process is how it ripples through every area of your life. The discipline you forge in your health flows into your work. The patience you develop in your work strengthens your relationships. The clarity you gain from turning inward makes you a calmer presence for everyone around you. Everything is connected because it all stems from you. When you build yourself, everything else rises with you. When you neglect yourself, everything else begins to decay. Building yourself, then, is not about achievement. It is about alignment. It is about aligning your actions with your vision, your discipline with your values, and your habits with your ambitions. Without that alignment, you remain restless, scattered, and unsure. With it, you find peace. Not the peace of inactivity, but the profound peace of knowing you are moving toward the life you were meant to live. Seneca believed that the greatest wealth is a mind content with itself. This contentment does not come from drifting. It comes from building, and it always circles back to the small choices. Will you rise when comfort whispers for you to stay? Will you do the work in silence when no one is there to applaud? Will you keep showing up when the results are still invisible, or will you abandon the process? The answers to these questions define whether you are building yourself or betraying yourself. The work of building is not glamorous, but it is powerful. It is the slow, deliberate act of stacking discipline, one day at a time, until the person you have always imagined becomes the person staring back at you in the mirror. In the end, building yourself isn't about becoming perfect. It is about becoming trustworthy to yourself, to your vision, and to the life you are shaping. It is knowing that when your deeper self calls for progress, you will answer. It is forging an identity so strong that no storm can strip it away. And when you reach that place, when you can look at yourself and know that you are the result of your own choices, you will realize that building yourself wasn't just the path. It was the destination all along. The true currency of self-respect is trust. You can achieve great things, win recognition, and collect the approval of others. But if you do not keep the promises you make to yourself, it will all feel hollow in the end. The ultimate question is not whether the world believes in you, but whether you believe in yourself. Do you follow through on the commitments you whisper in the silence of your own mind? Do you honor the goals you set when no one else is watching? If you don't, you slowly erode the very foundation of your confidence. And once that belief in yourself begins to fade, no amount of applause can ever bring it back. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more. That is poor." In the same way, a person who constantly seeks external validation without first securing self-trust is poor in spirit, always hungry, never satisfied. The promises you make to yourself are not small things. They are contracts with your future. Each time you honor one, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you want to become. Each time you break one, you widen the gap. Self-trust is not built in grand gestures. It is built in quiet repetition, waking up when you said you would, completing the task you promised to finish, saying no when you told yourself you would not give in. These are small choices, but stacked together, they create a powerful identity rooted in reliability. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." The strength of this rule lies in its simplicity. Followed consistently, it makes you trustworthy first to yourself and then to others. Herein lies the key. You cannot respect yourself if you do not trust yourself, and without self-respect, the praise of others will always ring empty. You have likely felt it, that moment of congratulations where, deep down, you felt undeserving because you knew you had cut corners. That dissonance is the gap between external validation and internal truth. No matter how loudly the world applauds, if you know you have broken your own word, you cannot feel fulfilled. Epictetus taught that it is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. If you keep lying to yourself, pretending that broken promises are acceptable, you block your own growth. You cannot progress while deceiving yourself. When you consistently keep your promises, however, something shifts. You begin to build momentum. Confidence is no longer something you chase. It becomes the natural byproduct of living in alignment. Each honored commitment whispers to your deeper self, "I can rely on you." That whisper grows louder until it becomes an unwavering conviction. And with that conviction, you are no longer shaken by setbacks or criticism, because you have proven to yourself that you can stand firm. Breaking your own promises is so destructive because it reshapes your identity. Each time you say you will do something and fail to, you cast a vote for a version of yourself who is unreliable and uncommitted. Identities are built on votes. One broken promise may seem insignificant, but repeated over time, it changes how you see yourself until you stop setting goals altogether, because deep down, you no longer believe your own word. Think of self-trust as a mirror. When it is intact, you see a clear, steady reflection. When it cracks from broken promises, the reflection becomes distorted. You see yourself as weaker, less capable. Live with that distorted image long enough, and you will begin to accept it as truth. This is why rebuilding trust in yourself must become your priority. It is not merely about discipline. It is about reclaiming an honest vision of who you are. The way back is through consistency. Not perfection, but consistency. Start by honoring one commitment each day. That is enough to begin repairing the cracks, enough to begin believing again. The most powerful figures in history were not those who relied on the trust of others, but those who first trusted themselves. Their decisions were often unpopular and their actions misunderstood, but their inner conviction, built through discipline, allowed them to withstand any external storm. Trusting yourself does not mean you will always be right. It means you will always move with clarity instead of paralysis. It is the antidote to hesitation, allowing you to act even when the outcome is uncertain. The irony is that most people work tirelessly to gain the trust of others, while neglecting the one trust that matters most, their own. As Marcus Aurelius warned, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." You cannot build a life of depth if you value appearances over your own word. Self-trust is the foundation. Without it, everything else crumbles. With it, you can endure failure and rejection because nothing can shake the identity you have built. That is why every choice matters. Every yes to progress and every no to weakness adds another layer of trust to your foundation. You will not always get it right, but what defines you is not perfection. It is the persistence to keep rebuilding that trust until it is unshakable. When that foundation is strong, you no longer live trapped by the fear of judgment. You move with a quiet confidence that is proven daily in your actions. That is the true reward of keeping your word, not the praise of others, but the peace of knowing you can rely on yourself. In the end, when you believe in your own promises, you no longer chase validation. You embody it. Yet, is this not the very trap most people fall into? Living for approval, bending to every opinion, shrinking their ambitions to fit the narrow expectations of others. It is one of the most subtle and dangerous ways to waste a life. You begin with a dream that stirs something deep inside you. Then, slowly, you dilute it. One concession here, one compromise there, until what remains is barely recognizable. You do this because you are afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of stepping outside the comfort of acceptance. Approval feels harmless at first, but its cost is steep. Each time you choose acceptance over authenticity, you trade a piece of your soul for a comfort that never lasts. People's opinions shift like sand. One day they praise you, the next they criticize. If you anchor your dreams to their approval, you will spend your life building on unstable ground. The irony is that the very people whose validation you seek are often living without conviction themselves. You are handing your future over to people who have already surrendered their own. Think of the fears that have held you back. These are invisible chains, binding not your body, but your spirit. Over time, you internalize them and become your own jailer. Living for approval is an endless, exhausting chase. There will always be someone who disapproves, always someone who doubts. In the process, you lose the one thing that truly matters: your authentic self. A dream that once burned with passion becomes dull when reshaped for others. You end up with victories that feel empty, because they were never truly yours. Approval distracts you from the real work. Instead of putting energy into your growth, you put it into your performance. Plato once observed that opinion is the medium between knowledge and ignorance. Why, then, would you anchor your future to something so volatile? To reclaim your life, you must recognize approval seeking for what it is: fear. Fear of rejection, fear of standing alone. But solitude is not emptiness. It is clarity. In solitude, you begin to hear your own voice again, unshaped by the noise of the world. The path forward is not to reject people, but to put their opinions in their proper place. Listen, but do not blindly obey. Consider, but do not compromise your core vision. Approval may come and go, but your self-respect must remain constant. Ask yourself, how many times have you traded your authenticity for approval? The answer may sting, but that sting is the first step toward freedom. Once you see the price of living for others, you can choose differently. You can choose to build your own life instead of performing in theirs. And you will discover that approval was never the prize. It was the prison. The real prize was always freedom, always the unshakable strength that comes from living as yourself. Understand this. Your vision was never meant to be understood by everyone. It was given to you and to you alone. That fire inside you, that dream that whispers to you in the quiet moments, it was planted in you for a reason. It does not need the approval of others to be real. If they cannot see it, that is not your burden to carry. All that matters is whether you can see it, whether you are willing to protect it, and whether you are ready to build it, brick by brick, even when no one claps. As Carl Jung said, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. Your vision is not a group project. It is a personal responsibility. Yet, how many dreams have been abandoned simply because someone close to the dreamer did not believe? When you shrink your vision to fit another's imagination, you betray yourself. People can only see through the lens of their own limitations. Their doubts are a reflection of their fears, not your abilities. Building something bigger than yourself will always draw skepticism. If your vision is truly worth chasing, it will often be too large for others to accept at first. This is not a flaw. It is proof that you are on the right path. The danger is letting their doubt seep into your bones until hesitation becomes procrastination, and procrastination becomes abandonment. That is how visions die, not with a final blow, but with 1,000 small concessions to doubt. Your task is not to convince everyone. Your task is to remain loyal to what you know is yours to build. The energy spent seeking validation belongs to the work itself. People will understand later when the results are undeniable. Until then, your loyalty must be to the process. Every person who changed the world was called a fool long before they were called a visionary. If they had abandoned their visions to be accepted, the world would be a far emptier place. There is a quiet courage required to hold on to something others cannot see. The courage to face misunderstanding and walk in solitude. But in that solitude, an unshakable strength grows. Each day you remain faithful to your vision. You build a resilience founded on your own conviction. In time, what once seemed invisible will become undeniable. But by then, you will have learned the most important lesson. The only approval you ever needed was your own. So, protect your vision. Nurture it. Build it, even in silence. The real tragedy is not that others cannot see it. It is when you stop seeing it because they couldn't. One day, the life shaped by that vision will stand as proof not just of what was possible, but of who you chose to be when belief was scarce and doubt was loud. To look inside is to awaken. The noise of the world is a siren's call, pulling you into its endless, shimmering dream. Silence is the awakening, the return to a clarity found only by listening inward. Yet this silence is not an emptiness. It is a wellspring of strength. It is the quiet space where you finally see things as they are, free from distortion. When you are rooted in this inner stillness, you can receive criticism without being broken by it, and accept praise without becoming captive to it. Both lose their hold, for your worth is no longer tethered to the shifting winds of opinion. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." The courage to detach from the noise, to retreat from the relentless tide of validation, this is the very act of liberation. When you no longer hunger for validation, your actions are transformed. You cease performing for an audience and begin acting from a place of purpose. You stop wasting your breath on those who will never understand, and instead, invest that energy into building what truly matters. You no longer falter when others cast their doubts, for you have already made peace with the solitary path. This inner silence does not arrive unbidden. It must be cultivated. It demands discipline, and it requires moments of solitude, a retreat from the chaos to ask, what truly matters here? What is mine, and what is merely noise? Most will never ask these questions, because silence, at first, is unsettling. It unearths truths we would rather leave buried. It reveals how much of a life has been lived for others, and not for oneself. But this discomfort is not a signal to retreat. It is the very reason you must press forward. It is only by facing the unease that you can finally move beyond it. And when you do, clarity begins to dissolve confusion. The fog lifts. What once felt overwhelming begins to feel simple. The doubts that once shouted so loudly now whisper faintly in the distance. You see your path again, and more importantly, you begin to trust it. Once you have tasted that calm, the world itself feels different. You realize how much time you have wasted performing for others. You see with perfect clarity how much of your energy has been drained by the chase for approval, and suddenly you no longer want it. You begin to hunger for depth, for truth, for progress, measured not by applause or likes, but by the quiet satisfaction of knowing you are living in alignment with your soul. That shift is what makes you unstoppable. Not because life becomes easier, but because you are no longer distracted by the noise that once held you captive. And here lies the paradox. When you stop needing validation, you begin to command respect. People see someone unswayed by the fleeting currents of opinion, and they feel the gravity of that inner stability. Authenticity carries a weight that performance can never imitate. But by then, their respect is no longer your prize. It is simply a byproduct of your freedom. You are not living for them, you are living as yourself. That is the freedom that silence gives you. The journey toward it is lifelong. There will always be noise pressing in from all sides. There will always be moments when doubt returns, when outside voices grow louder than you wish. But the more you practice, the faster you return to your center. Silence becomes your anchor, and in that anchoring, you find peace. Not peace as an escape from life, but as the strength to live it fully. So, when the world tries to pull you in 1,000 different directions, remember this. You do not need its validation. You do not need its permission. Your vision is yours alone, and silence is the forge in which it gains its strength. Find that silence, hold to it, and build your life from its foundation. Because the moment you stop needing validation, you become untouchable. No critic, no doubt, no outside voice can move someone who knows precisely where they are going and has the clarity to keep walking no matter what stands in the way. Think about it. If growth arrived only in moments of ease, every person would be a giant. But the truth is that growth is hidden in the heart of struggle. Progress is born from discomfort, and transformation awaits you at the very edge of your exhaustion. The days when you want to quit are the very days that test your commitment. They ask you, do you truly mean what you said? Do you truly want the vision you claimed? Or were you only willing to chase it when it was comfortable? As Epictetus taught, difficulties show what men are. Your character is not forged on the sunny days. It is revealed in the storm, on the days you want to surrender, but choose to endure. That is where you discover what you are made of. That is where you uncover a strength you never knew you possessed. It is crucial to remember that fear will never vanish completely. To wait for a day devoid of fear is simply a more patient form of procrastination. Fear is a part of the journey. It follows you because it knows you are stepping into unknown territory, leaving the safety of the familiar behind. But fear is not your enemy. It is a companion that appears whenever you push against your limits. The line between those who succeed and those who falter is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move in spite of it. Courage is rarely a single heroic act. It is quiet persistence. It is the resolve to take one more step when you ache to stop, to make one more attempt when failure feels heavy, to endure one more day when progress remains unseen. It is a relentless series of small fidelities, which, in time, compound into something unshakable. And every time you refuse to quit, you are not just moving forward. You are reshaping your identity into that of someone who endures, someone who cannot be easily broken. What makes courage so transformative is that it does not strengthen you in just one area of life. It strengthens you everywhere. The resilience you build in your work spills into your relationships. The endurance you forge in your health flows into your creativity. The patience you cultivate in your growth enriches your ability to handle any setback. Every time you continue when you want to quit, you are training your entire self to be stronger, calmer, and more capable. This is why quitting feels so tempting. It is the gatekeeper. If you can pass through its gates, you will discover reserves of strength you never knew you had. In time, you will look back on the moments you wanted to quit and realize they were the most important of all, not because they were pleasant, but because they revealed your true strength. They forced you to dig deeper, to endure longer, to choose courage over comfort. And it was in those moments that you built the foundation for everything that followed. Without them, your victories would feel fragile. With them, your victories carry weight, because you know they were earned. The road will never be free of days when you feel like quitting. That temptation will always resurface, whispering that the effort isn't worth it. But the more you resist it, the quieter its voice becomes. You build resilience like armor, and in time, what once felt unbearable becomes manageable. What once drained you becomes your fuel. And the voice that says quit is no longer a truth, but a test you have passed before and will pass again. So when the day comes, as it surely will, when your spirit feels empty and the road ahead seems endless, remember this: transformation lives here. The moment you feel like quitting is the moment your deeper self is being forged. Fear is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that you are moving in the right direction. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to let fear decide your future. And every time you choose courage over quitting, you become someone stronger, someone steadier, someone capable of carrying the weight of the life you are building. That is how transformation happens, not in comfort, but in the fire of persistence. You have felt that moment before, when quitting seemed easier, when the pull of comfort grew louder than the call of purpose. In those moments, the bed feels heavier, distractions seem sweeter, and the weight of your ambitions feels almost unbearable. And yet, there is a truth we often forget. Comfort is a liar. It promises relief, but delivers only regret. It offers a fleeting peace, shallow and transient. For deep down, you know you have traded what is meaningful for what is merely easy. Comfort is clever. It does not confront you with force. It seduces you quietly, convincing you that one skipped day won't matter, that one missed step is harmless. But with every surrender, you drift further from the shores of the life you were meant to build. The trap of comfort is that it feels good in the moment. It softens the edges of struggle. It numbs the sting of fear. It silences the demand for effort. But that pleasure is ephemeral, and when it fades, it leaves behind the far heavier burden of knowing you have retreated from your own potential. Comfort, left unchecked, becomes a habit. Each small retreat makes the next one easier, until comfort is no longer a momentary indulgence, but a way of life. You wake up years later wondering where your energy went, where your ambitions went, where your courage went. They did not disappear. They were slowly traded away for the false peace of comfort. And here is the hardest part. Comfort does not just steal your progress. It steals your belief in yourself. Each time you betray your purpose for relief, you erode the trust you have in your own word. You promise yourself that tomorrow will be different, that you will start again, that you will be stronger. But when tomorrow comes, the whisper of comfort returns, and all too often, you follow it. Over time, you stop believing your own promises. You begin to see yourself as someone who cannot follow through, and that loss of belief is far more destructive than any single failure. But if comfort lies, then what is the truth? The truth is that purpose will always demand more from you than you think you can give, but it will give back more than you ever thought possible. It asks for sacrifice, for persistence, for courage. And though the cost feels steep in the moment, the return is priceless. Self-respect, resilience, progress, and a future you can stand proudly within. It is vital to see comfort for what it is, an illusion of safety. It tells you that staying where you are protects you from risk, from failure, from pain. But what it truly does is lock you in place while life moves on without you. The world does not wait. Time does not pause. By staying in comfort, you are not protecting yourself. You are falling behind. And every moment spent clinging to that false safety is a moment stolen from the person you could become. Think back to the times in your life when you felt most alive. They were not the times you were comfortable. They were the times you pushed through fear, when you risked failure, when you dared to step beyond what felt safe. Those moments gave you strength, clarity, and stories you still carry with pride. That is the proof that comfort cannot give you what purpose can. It is proof that the life you deserve exists only on the other side of effort. So the next time comfort whispers that you have done enough, that you can stop now, remember what is truly at stake. It is not just today's progress. It is your future. It is your identity. It is the life you will one day look back on. Will you see a story of purpose or a story of retreat? Each small choice moves you closer to one or the other. And though comfort lies loudly, purpose always speaks the quiet truth. Every step forward, no matter how small, is worth it. You have already felt the cost of comfort in your own life, the restlessness when you know you could have done more, the heaviness of unfulfilled potential, the regret of opportunities wasted. You do not need to imagine it. You have lived it. But that also means you know the alternative. You know the power that comes from resisting comfort and choosing progress. You know the pride of pushing through when you wanted to stop. That feeling is no accident. It is the reward for listening to purpose instead of lies. And that is the choice you face every day: comfort or purpose, lies or truth, regret or resilience. Each time you choose purpose, you weaken the voice of comfort. Each time you honor your vision, you strengthen your future. And slowly, the habit of ease is replaced by the habit of excellence. One day, you will look back and see that the gap between the life you deserved and the life you lived was closed not by one grand act, but by countless small decisions to reject comfort's lies and walk toward your purpose. So yes, quitting will always seem easier. Comfort will always whisper. But you already know its voice is false. You already know the life it offers is smaller than the one you were meant to live. Every time you give in, you step further from the life you deserve. But every time you resist, every time you choose purpose over relief, you step closer. And step by step, choice by choice, you build not just a future, but a self you can be proud of. That is the truth. Comfort tries to hide. That is the truth you must live by. So, how do you fight back? You fight back in the very moment when everything inside you tells you to stop. You fight back by leaning into the resistance, by refusing to surrender to the voice of comfort that insists you've done enough. True strength is not forged in the first steps, when energy is high and motivation is fresh. It is forged in the final steps, when you are weary, when your mind begs you to quit, and every fiber of your being feels drained. This is the crucible of transformation, to push harder precisely when you want to stop. One more repetition, one more page, one more decision in favor of your future self. These small, extra steps may not seem like much in the moment, but they are the dividing line between those who dream of growth and those who achieve it. As Epictetus reminded us, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Glory is not found in ease, but in the courage to go further when ease tempts you to retreat. The average person stops at the first sign of real discomfort. They cease when the novelty fades, when the applause quiets, when the results are not yet visible. And in stopping, they mistake this point for their limit. But most limits are not real. They are boundaries drawn by the mind, illusions that crumble the moment you dare to press against them. Think about it. The times in your life you have been proudest were not the times when things came easily. They were the times you endured, the times you finished despite the weight of fatigue, the times you added one more effort when most people would have stopped. That extra effort is a gift you give to your future self. It is proof that you are not average, that you will not collapse at the first sign of resistance. And there is something more. Every time you push harder, you are not just building results, you are building identity. You are telling yourself, I am someone who keeps going, and that identity permeates every area of your life. You begin to face challenges differently. You stop backing down so easily. You stop doubting whether you can endure, because you have already proven that you can. Of course, pushing harder does not mean burning out recklessly. It means training your mind to distinguish between the voice of genuine exhaustion and the voice of comfort disguised as exhaustion. One is your body signaling its need for recovery. The other is your fear attempting to convince you to quit early. The inner silence you cultivate helps you tell the difference. Jung believed that facing the shadow within us was essential for growth. That shadow voice whispers that you are too tired, too weak, that you should take the easy way out. But when you shine the light of awareness on it, you realize it is not truth, it is resistance. And resistance is the threshold of progress. The more you cross that threshold, the more resilient you become. The next time you face the same challenge, it feels lighter. What once seemed impossible becomes routine. And in this way, you do not just push harder in one moment, you raise your entire baseline for what is possible. This is how champions are built, not by doing what everyone else does, but by refusing to stop where everyone else stops. Pushing beyond comfort also builds trust in yourself. Each time you go further than you thought you could, you prove to yourself that your limits are flexible. That trust is invaluable, for it becomes the foundation for bigger risks, bigger visions, bigger goals. You stop fearing the unknown because you have already experienced the strength that comes from enduring the difficult. And that strength is what makes you unstoppable. Epictetus said, "Circumstances don't make the man, they only reveal him to himself." By going further when you want to quit, you reveal to yourself a version that is braver, steadier, and stronger than you once imagined. And here is the secret. The reward is rarely immediate. In the moment, the extra rep hurts. The extra page feels tedious. But in the long run, those tiny acts of defiance are what create transformation. They are what separate mediocrity from greatness, stagnation from progress, regret from fulfillment. Comfort gives you temporary ease, but effort gives you lasting pride. And that pride becomes a quiet confidence that no one can take away, because it was earned in the silence of your struggle. The next time you feel like quitting, remind yourself that you are standing at the door of transformation. Remind yourself that the average person stops here, but you are not average. The next time comfort whispers, answer it with action. One more rep, one more page, one more decision. For it is in those small, defiant choices that strength is born, that your future takes shape, and that you build a self capable of carrying the life you were meant to live. That is the power of going further. That is the path to becoming unshakable. And here is the thing. You will not always see results right away. Growth is rarely a thunderclap. It almost never announces its arrival. More often, it is a silent, subterranean force, like the roots of a great tree spreading deep beneath the soil, anchoring themselves long before any growth breaks through into the light. Simply because you cannot see the progress does not mean it isn't happening. The problem is our conditioning to crave instant results, immediate validation, a swift confirmation that our efforts are paying off. When we do not see it, we begin to doubt. But that doubt is the greatest enemy of transformation, for it convinces us to quit before the roots have had a chance to anchor us. The great danger is abandoning the process too soon. We yearn for visible proof, for a sign that our work is not in vain, but mastery, by its very nature, is born in a long and patient silence. And this is where trust becomes your most vital tool. To trust the process is to accept that not all progress can be measured today. It is choosing to believe that every act of discipline, every choice in favor of growth, every time you resist the urge to quit, is stacking silently towards something greater. Trusting the process means refusing to judge your future based on the limitations of what you can see right now. Remember this: progress is never a straight line. It is a curve, a layering, a compounding of efforts that feels invisible until the day it becomes undeniable. Consider the river. It carves canyons from stone, not in a year, nor even in a lifetime, but through the endless persistence of each drop, each current, each flow. You do not see the change in a single moment, but over eons, the river reshapes the landscape entirely. Your efforts are no different. Each small act, seemingly insignificant on its own, becomes a force of nature when joined with time. Together, they carve new patterns into your mind, your body, and the very landscape of your life. This is why impatience is the great betrayer. It convinces you to abandon the river just before it has finished its work. The truth is that progress is often quiet. It is rarely found in the dramatic leap, but in the silent consistency of reading one more page, training one more day, choosing discipline one more time. None of these feel like victories in isolation, but together they accumulate into something extraordinary. And yes, there will be days of doubt, days when you look in the mirror and wonder if anything is changing at all. These are the most dangerous days, for they tempt you to undo months of effort with a single decision to stop. Yet, they are also the most important. They are the moments when trust becomes your anchor. Trust in the process. Trust in the work that remains hidden from sight. So, you must learn to trust the silence. Trust the hidden work. Trust the roots spreading deep beneath the surface, for growth is rarely visible in the moment it occurs. It reveals itself in hindsight, in the strength you didn't know you possessed, in the resilience you didn't realize you had built. As Seneca reminded us, the road to greatness is a rough one. And it feels rough precisely because progress is slow, hidden, and silent. Yet every single step along that road matters. Ultimately, trusting the process is an act of patience, of persistence, of profound faith in the unseen. It is the understanding that greatness grows underground long before it blossoms in the open. It is refusing to let doubt steal what persistence is destined to give you. So keep going, even when it feels quiet. Keep building, even when the results hide. Because just like the tree that bursts through the soil after seasons of silence, your growth will one day emerge, and when it does, it will be undeniable. Consider how many dreams have perished, not because they were impossible, but because their dreamer could not endure the silence between effort and reward. That silence feels heavy, almost unbearable. You show up, day after day, but nothing seems to change. You pour your energy into the process, but no one applauds, no one notices. This is where most people quit. They convince themselves it isn't working, but the truth is, the process was always working. It just hadn't revealed its results yet. Endurance is powerful because time itself is a force multiplier. A single disciplined act may seem small, but time compounds it into something formidable. One workout changes little. 100 workouts sculpt a body. One page does not transform a mind. 1,000 pages do. Most can endure a short burst of effort. A week, a month, perhaps even a season. But true endurance demands more. It demands years of faith in what is not yet seen, of discipline in the profound quiet, of trust in the invisible work. That is why so few reach greatness, because greatness is built not on intensity alone, but on patience sustained over time. For the impatient, time is an enemy, a wall standing between them and their desires. But when you cultivate patience, time becomes your greatest ally. You realize that every day you endure is not wasted. It is an investment. Every repetition, every disciplined act is a seed planted, and time is what allows those seeds to bloom. This patient endurance builds more than just external results. It forges your inner world. It cultivates resilience. It teaches you to hold steady while others panic. It grants you calm in the eye of the storm. As you endure, you discover that you are stronger than your frustration, stronger than any delay, stronger than the temptation to quit. But let us be clear, patience is not passivity. It is not waiting idly for fate to intervene. Patience is active. It is the discipline of showing up, of stacking one day upon another, of doing the work with the quiet faith that time will multiply your efforts. It is watering the plant daily, even when no green shoots have appeared, trusting that the effort is never wasted. The great tragedy is that so many give up just before the dawn. They abandon the work when it feels hardest, forgetting that the point of greatest resistance is often the very brink of transformation. So keep stacking the days. Keep choosing discipline, even when no one notices. Every day you endure adds another stone to your foundation, until one day that foundation becomes unshakable. Then the results will burst through the soil, visible to all. And you will understand that patience wasn't just part of the journey. It was the very thing that made the journey possible. To stay this course, however, you must learn to cut out distractions. Not just the obvious ones, the buzzing phone, the endless stream of entertainment, but the subtle thieves as well. The ones that do not come from the outside world, but from within. Overthinking, self-doubt, the endless replay of past mistakes. These inner thieves do not shout, but their whispers are far more corrosive, for they turn your own energy against you. The external world is loud, but most people are undone not by the noise outside, but by the noise inside. You can turn off a phone, close a door. But what of the thoughts that circle endlessly in your mind? The fears of disasters that have not yet happened? You begin to mistake their voice for your own, when in reality, they are merely thoughts you have allowed to overstay their welcome. If they remain, they will rob you of more than just your time. They will rob you of your identity. Each time you choose doubt over action, you reinforce the belief that you cannot trust yourself. As Seneca observed, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Most of the pain inflicted by these inner thieves is for wounds that have not been dealt, for futures that have not occurred. Cutting them out is not just managing your environment, it is managing your inner life. It is learning to notice a thought that does not serve you and simply letting it go. It is recognizing that doubt is not a command, but a fleeting suggestion. It is deciding that mistakes are not prisons, but teachers. The true danger of these subtle distractions is that they disguise themselves as responsibility. You tell yourself that replaying mistakes is a form of learning, that doubt is just realism, that overthinking is merely preparation. But if reflection never inspires movement, if preparation never leads to action, then you are not practicing wisdom, you're practicing avoidance. When you begin to cut these inner distractions out, you feel lighter. Energy. You didn't know you were losing returns to you. Your mind feels clearer, your focus sharper. Silence grows where noise once lived. Confidence grows where doubt once ruled. Action grows where overthinking once paralyzed you. This is not about perfection. The inner thieves will always try to return. The difference is whether you let them inside or leave them at the door. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Guard your attention, not only from the noise outside, but from the noise within. The greatest battles are fought in the quiet of your own mind. Win there, and you can win anywhere. And when setbacks come, and they will come, do not stay down. Life guarantees you will fall. Plans will crumble. You will be knocked off balance. But the fall is not the failure. Failure is a choice. The choice to remain on the ground. Every rise, however, is a transformation. Each decision to get back to your feet makes you tougher, wiser, and forges you into something unbreakable in a way that comfort never could. Think of the challenges you have already faced, the ones that seemed unbearable at the time. You moved past them, and looking back, you can see how they shaped you. Seneca wrote that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. The very weight that feels as if it is crushing you today is the same weight that will strengthen you for all of your tomorrows. Setbacks are not a sign to stop. They are proof that you are in the arena. They strip away illusions and show you where your foundation is weak, where you need to grow. And while painful, that clarity is invaluable. The people who achieve the most are not those who never fall. They are those who rise relentlessly. They understand that resilience is not given, but earned every single time you choose to rise. So do not fear setbacks, expect them. What matters is not how often you fall, but how consistently you rise. Rise even when it feels pointless. Rise because each time you do, you remind yourself that your story is not over. The world does not reward those who never fall. It rewards those who fall, rise, and continue moving forward until the strength they have built becomes undeniable. Confidence is one of the first fruits of this labor. As you keep the promises you make to yourself, day after day, a deep and unshakable trust is born. It shows in the way you carry yourself, in the way you meet a challenge. You stop seeking validation from the world because you have finally learned to validate yourself. This inner shift ripples outward, quietly but profoundly transforming your relationships. When you are grounded in your own being, you no longer use others to fill a void. Instead, you bring stability to every interaction. You offer presence. You offer clarity. People feel this steadiness in you, and your connections become more authentic, more resilient. Your health, too, realigns. Small, disciplined decisions become natural extensions of the respect you've built for yourself. You begin to treat your body not as something to be punished, but as the foundation for your life. But perhaps the most profound change occurs in your vision. As the inner and outer noise fades, your sight becomes sharp. You begin to see, with absolute clarity, what truly matters. You stop chasing everything and begin to pursue only that which aligns with your deepest purpose. And the external world inevitably follows this internal shift. For the world can only reflect what you project. Move with uncertainty, and it will offer you instability. But move with a grounded, disciplined clarity, and it will respond in kind, bringing you stronger connections, clearer opportunities, and more aligned outcomes. This is not mysticism. It is the natural consequence of a profound inner transformation. When you clarify your vision, you begin to attract the relationships that are truly aligned with it. Each piece of your life strengthens the others, for they all spring from the same source, you. This is why focusing on yourself is never a selfish act. It is, in fact, the most generous thing you can do, because every person connected to you benefits from the person you are becoming. But this kind of change requires a profound patience. At first, you may not notice a difference. The days of discipline can feel invisible. Those early morning workouts, the quiet hours spent reading, the silent effort to turn your focus inward, none of it seems to matter. But like roots spreading deep beneath the soil, the effects are compounding. And when the tree finally breaks through the surface, its emergence seems sudden to everyone else, even though you know it was years in the making. Of course, setbacks will still come. Your confidence will be tested. Relationships will face their trials. Health will fluctuate, and your vision will, at times, become blurred. But when you have built yourself from within, these fluctuations do not break you. They simply teach you to bend. They remind you that growth is not a straight line, and that strength is not perfection, but resilience. And as you continue on this path, you will notice another shift, the arrival of peace. Not the peace that comes from having no problems, but the quiet confidence of knowing you can handle them. Not the peace of everything going your way, but the peace of being so grounded that you can adapt when it doesn't. This kind of peace is a rare treasure, and it cannot be faked. It is earned only by doing the work, by turning inward, and by building yourself with patience and discipline until the external world no longer dictates your inner state. So over time, you begin to see it. By focusing on yourself, quietly, persistently, and without apology, every part of your life starts to reflect that inner strength. Your confidence deepens. Your relationships fortify. Your health stabilizes. Your vision sharpens. The outer world always follows the inner. And when it does, you realize that the life you were chasing outside of yourself was waiting for you all along, hidden within, ready to emerge the moment you decided to focus on you. until you win. Every step you took in silence, every setback you overcame, every distraction you resisted was shaping this version of you. You didn't notice it at first, because growth is often invisible in the moment. But looking back now, you see the evidence everywhere. You see the calm you now hold under pressure. You feel the steadiness that anchors you when doubt tries to creep in. You recognize the profound trust you have in yourself when you make a promise. And perhaps, most importantly, you realize you have become someone who refuses to quit. This doesn't mean you never felt like quitting. It means you learned how to keep moving even when surrender felt easier. You discovered that strength is not the absence of weakness, but the will to continue in spite of it. Trust is another part of the prize. Not the trust others place in you, but the unwavering trust you have in yourself. This is a trust you cannot buy and cannot fake. It is earned day after day by proving to yourself that your own word means something. Each time you followed through when you didn't feel like it, you cast a vote for a version of yourself that is reliable, unshakable, and consistent. Over time, those votes became your identity, and now you stand firmly within it. That self-trust is the foundation of unshakable confidence. It is the deep, internal knowing that no matter what life throws at you, you will not abandon yourself. And then, there is the ability to stand alone. One of the hardest lessons in building yourself is realizing that not everyone will come with you. Some will doubt you. Some will leave you. Some will resent the changes you make. But you kept walking. You kept building. And in that solitude, you discovered a strength forged only in the quiet crucible of standing on your own, without collapsing. What you find at the end of this journey is that the external rewards, while meaningful, no longer define you. Success, money, recognition, they are valuable, but they are no longer the measure of your worth. Because you now know that the real prize was never outside of you. It was always within. It was in the way you carried yourself, the resilience you built, and the character you forged through discipline and patience. And here lies the paradox. The moment you stop chasing external prizes as your ultimate reward is the moment they begin to flow to you. Why? Because you no longer move from a place of desperation, but from a place of clarity. You no longer act to be seen. You act because it aligns with who you are. And that authenticity carries its own immense power. People feel it. Opportunities are drawn to it. But even if they weren't, you would still move with the same conviction, because the prize is already yours. So yes, one day you will reach your goals. But when you do, you will realize that the finish line was never the true reward. The reward was who you became along the way. It was the refusal to quit when it would have been easy. It was the self-trust built through countless promises kept. It was the ability to stand alone and keep walking. And it was the realization that true strength doesn't come from what you achieve. It comes from who you are when all achievement is stripped away. That is the ultimate win. Not the trophy, not the applause, not the recognition. The win is becoming someone you can trust completely. Someone who cannot be broken by setbacks. Someone who doesn't need the world's validation because they have already validated themselves. That is the real prize, the strongest version of you. In the end, every struggle, every setback, every small victory has been shaping you into someone stronger than you ever realized. The true prize was never just the goal. It was the strength, the clarity, and the discipline you built on the journey. So keep walking, keep building, and keep choosing yourself until you win.